Hey, I'm Dan Fitzpatrick here at stockmarketmentor.com, part of Fitzpatrick Trading Group. Look, I want to talk about SpaceX here. Now, I bought this stock, got in a little bit late at about 162 the other day on Friday. And I've been talking about this with my members about the way that I want to trade this. Now, my typical option strategy for IPOs is, or my typical trading strategy for IPOs is, I don't want to buy them unless I'm actively trading, like kind of almost day trading, which is what I am here. But I don't want to buy them right when they first start trading because, yes, they'll go up and this will. And it is kind of it's like a separate trade. I look at it as a distinct trade where you're really swing trading more the hours, even the 30-minute charts. In fact, I'll show you the price structure that I use. I've got this at 10 minute, 30 minutes, and an hour here. And so this is the way I would be trading a stock like this. And it literally is like if this is a 30-minute chart. So I'm buying it here, which I did. And then it comes up here and I sold. No, I didn't sell, just hanging on to this bad boy. And then it falls back here, okay, at 160, which is essentially where it opened, right? And then I'm buying more when the stock breaks out here, which it did. And so now we're up really, really nicely on this. Some at 160, some at 180. Actually got in a little bit earlier than that. But the bottom line is I'm buying this stock on the way up, but not because I think it's going to go to the moon. And yes, that pun was intended. It's because I want to be trading this. I want to be trading the implied volatility. I want to be trading options on this, which actually start, I believe, tomorrow. They're actually going to start trading tomorrow. And so, the one thing that I want you to check out before I talk about options here, you can look at all these stocks other than SpaceX. Now, I've got them sorted in terms of how much they changed just today. And only about half of them, a little less than half, actually went up. Like we can look at these. You see that again, SpaceX screamed here. But so the other stocks that went up here, NASA slightly, meh, meh, like none of these, okay, fine, whatever. None of these are really, and these are the best ones. These are the best ones. XOV, buy that one. That one works. Okay. XOVR, ASTS, nope. None of these. Now you've got SpaceX. So the only two that I would really be looking at right now are XOVR, plenty of liquidity there, and SpaceX. So I'm talking about selling calls against SpaceX. And so the idea is that the implied volatility on this stock, the options market is going to price it, and they're going to price it really, really high because of the uncertainty. And so here's how I'm going to want to trade that. Well, we'll see if they price weekly options. But what I don't want to do is I don't want to be selling options too soon. Like, can you imagine if options were able to be written today, the stock's up at 180 bucks and you say, "Hey, I'm going to start selling options against this. I know, I'll sell the 200s or I'll sell the 190s." So you get that money and it looks like a great trade until the stock runs up on the same day to 200 bucks. And then what do you think it's going to do tomorrow? It's probably going to run even higher. So instead of doing that, I'm looking at my covered call trade as actually already having started with one leg. I'm buying the stock. Now, what I'm doing is I'm going to let the retail traders get all lathered up, push the stock up higher and higher, make these option premiums really, really expensive. And then at the first sign, well, maybe the second sign, at the first sign that this stock is peaking, and I don't know, maybe it'll be tomorrow, maybe it'll be 2 weeks from tomorrow, but at the first sign the stock's peaking, then I'm going to stretch way out and I'm going to sell some far out of the money calls with about a delta of 20, maybe even 15. So it's got a 15 to 20% chance, and that would be all, of expiring in the money, meaning that would mean my stock would get called away from me, like a 15 to 20% odds of that happening. And I don't want it to happen. I want to continue to sell calls week after week, month after month, and pay for this super pricey stock. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And by the way, this is an option trade. And so I'm going to be doing that for option market mentor members. But somebody asked me this morning at my live training session if I would just do this for the general membership for stock market mentor members and option market mentor members, just to kind of show everybody how this works. And so I'm going to do that, guys. So it doesn't matter if you're an SMM or OMM member, you're going to be able to see how we can trade this stock for a lot of income. Okay. And by the way, don't forget about XOVR. This is a trade that I'll be putting on tomorrow as well. These are the two stocks that totally work right here, right now. Now, here's what I want you to do. If you are not a member of SMM or OMM, I want you to handle that right now. Look, the money that you spend on the subscription is nothing. It's the time that you're going to be spending is the most important thing. And you're going to be spending time with me making money and also learning how to do your own trade. So if you're not happy with the results that you're getting, I promise you, you're going to be a better trader once you sign up. I've got people. One lady just emailed me a couple weeks ago. She made like 1,100% return on some call options on SanDisk because I told her several months ago, just get long this thing. It's running higher. I've got people all across the board making great money on trades that we're featuring. You get entries, you get stops, you get exits, you get when to add, when to reduce, all of this stuff as a part of a regular membership. And we're going to be making some changes. Prices are going to be going up. So if you're interested at all, I would think that now would be a good time to take advantage of that and scratch that itch. Okay. All right. I'll see you next time.